All right, everybody. In this one, we have let's go over here and check. Where's my date? 2014. Town and Country. Now, apparently, this car was a drive, then it would stall out, or they would turn it off and then it wouldn't start. And now it's apparently a no start complete. So now apparently it's completely a no start. So I'm in the run position right now. We're gonna try crank it, and there's absolutely nothing going on when I turn the key. So the way that Dodge works is that the key gets validated and then it activates a bunch of relays up at the front of the vehicle. Now, right now, we're not getting any of that, so I'm guessing we're gonna have a communication issue going on somewhere. But let's get in here. I gotta get my charger because my battery's running low. I forgot to turn it off last night, so that's my fault. Hopefully they have a plug somewhere close by. I can plug it in. But we're gonna go Dodge. Now they might tell me to go into I can't start the engine. It's impossible. To go in and go online, but it might not at the same time. I do see the park. The TCM. You can't see the TCM. The wireless control module has 2 codes, which is what you need. So your wireless control module lives up over here. Ooh, wow. There's a lot of codes. Most of them are probably going to be communication codes. They put a brand new battery into this vehicle. There is a lot of codes in this. Now, let this finish up. Okay, so the window works at least. TPMS has 4, of course. ABS and PTS. Push to start, I think that's what that one's for. No, Partronics. So we can't see the ITM. Can't see that. The immobilizer light is out. So let's go on to our report. Let's go see what we have. We're gonna go from there. 45 fault codes. ECU configuration mismatch. That's not good. Ignition run start. Ignition run only input circuit open. Impossible missing ECU network configuration data. I don't know if they replaced the PCM on this or not. Below allowable range, lost communication with ABS. Heated seat control module. Driver door module, the reset recovery occurred. So as of right now, central gateway and everything is good. Maybe this car was into an accident. It's very possible. Let's go for our battery low voltage and battery low voltage. So nothing there. So what we're gonna do is save all this. Ooh, that's a lot of mileage. We're gonna exit. We're gonna clear out all these codes because most of them are in history anyway. I'm gonna rescan everything in here, and we're gonna start to diagnose this from the beginning and just hopefully not too many people have played around into this. So after I get done rescanning it, I will bring everybody back. All right, before I do that, I'm just gonna take and try to crank it again, maybe set some new codes. So now I'm gonna go back and I'm just gonna rescan. All right, so quickly, we have TPMS has one code and Fold Stole module that has one code. So all we're gonna do is press our report. Third row seat left backrest switch is active and low pressure tire pressure. All right, so that's not really going to help us. So let's go into our wireless control module. All right, let's go to diagnose. Let's go see some live data. There's two ways that we can do this. One, go look at some live data for our ignition, which should be in the wireless control module. Two, check and make sure that we have everything coming out from the ignition switch to the starter relays and make sure the starter relays are able to work properly. Now, let's just go see this. Number of key fobs is 2 ignition in the run position. So we see it right here. Okay. And start position. So we see that the wireless control module does see that the vehicle goes to the start position. A valid key is inserted, yes. Key inserted, yes. Fobic removal, solenoid off. Try that again. Okay. So, everything is good so far. Now, ignition run start. Yes. Ignition accessory run start. We're good. We're good. So, as we could see, all the live data is there for the system to actually work. All right. So what we're going to do is get information or wiring diagram out for the TIPM, and we're just going to start doing some diagnosing up at the TIPM and go from there. So I'm going to pause you guys. I'm going to get that wiring diagram and I will be right back. All right, so let's go over this wiring diagram real quick. Now this starting system is not really unique, but it is a little bit different than some of the standard wiring diagrams out there. The only reason I say that is because there's a couple of modules that are in play where if you go on some of the older vehicles, well, it's really just turn the ignition to the start sends a power out to a relay, the relay is constantly grounded, then it transfers that straight up to the starter. This works a little bit differently. So we're going to go over it quickly. I'm going to show you guys the modules that are important into it and the ones that don't really matter at this point. All right. So we know that our vehicle is not starting. Now, the thing about it is that when we turn it to the start position, we don't hear anything happening. So there could be a couple of issues. One, we could have a wiring issue. We could have a module issue. We could have a starter issue. We could have a connection issue. So there's 4 issues really that we got to think about when we are looking at a vehicle that is not starting. Now, on this one, what ends up happening is when we put our key into the slot for the ignition, which is our wireless ignition node, all right, which is right here. What that does is that it sends a signal through the CAN line all the way down to the PCM, all right, and it validates the code that's into the WIN module and into the PCM and see if they match. And if they do match, then it allows the vehicle to go through a starting phase. Now, if it does not match, it will not allow the vehicle to start. Now, what ends up happening is that there's a little red light into the dash on Dodge, and that lash will flash constantly. It'll go like just on, off, okay? I think it's at 1 or 2 second intervals or something like that. So if it flashes, that means the key is not recognized, and there could either be a module communication issue or a communication issue in general onto the vehicle, or even a key issue at that point. So our case, the light did go out, and we seen that. We scanned for codes. There was basically no codes into the system related to the starting system. Now, if it was a key issue, it would code that there was a key issue. If it was a WIN issue, it would code in WIN issue. If it wasn't able to control the starter relay, it would code that it could not control the starter relay. So I'm not really too worried about anything around there. Now, the modules we're going to be worried about are the WIN module, the transmission range switch, because if it doesn't see it, it's not going to allow us to start. The Parker neutral switch, all right, the PCM, and also the the TIPM, or the totally integrated power module, and also the starter. So if we look at this wiring diagram, we can clearly, well, if we look at this wiring diagram, we can state really that the Win module is able to see our key, our PCM is able to see our key because the light in the dash does not flash, and because of that, I'm not worried about a communication issue of the Win, and I'm not worried about a communication issue with the PCM. Now, as I stated before, they will code if there is an issue with them, all right? Or you might have multiple codes leading towards that there's lost communication with one of those modules. Now, the other area that we have to worry about then is going to be our TIPM right here, and also our starter, which is down here. So how does this actually work? So as I stated a while ago, our key gets inserted into the Win. The Win then takes and communicates through CAN up to the PCM. It validates the code that it gets from the transponder into the key, from the Win, and from the PCM, and then it says, okay, now we are able to start. But how does it go through this? Well, so then what ends up happening is that there's communication that happens on the CAN system with the TIPM. Now the TIPM gets a signal to say, okay, we are able to control, or I'm going to allow you to start the vehicle. So what does the TIPM do? The TIPM takes this starter control wire and it comes up onto pin 85, and it adds a power onto pin 85. Sorry about that. Yeah, so where was I? It starts a ground onto pin 85, and then it'll also take, and a PCM is the one that will control the power onto pin 86. All right, so this relay is actually computer controlled. So when we think about that, all our testing really that I can think of, we can do actually at the relay. All right, so as long as my relay has a 12 volt coming in onto pin 30, all right, and it has a ground onto pin 85 and another power coming in through pin 86, but that power is going to be fed through the PCM if we follow the line. All right, it comes all the way over to here, and here we see our starter control return. So that actually should be our ground. So I guess I got that wrong. All right, so pin 86 is going to be our ground, and pin 85 is going to end up being our power. So, but regardless, it's only a coil, so you could add a power or ground on either side and the relay will still activate. It's just the way that they're controlling this relay. It doesn't really change anything. You could actually put a power on pin 85 and a ground on pin 86, or a ground on pin power on pin 86 and a ground on pin 85, and it would still operate the coil on the inside. But I did get that wrong. I should have looked at the wiring diagram a little bit more clearly. So regardless, it's going to power up the coil, and then the switch is going to close, and it's going to send power down through the switch all the way down to our starter. All right, so on this yellow gray wire. So my thought process on this is, because we know that the Win is actually seeing the signal from the PCM, and it's actually allowing the vehicle to get into a crank position, that our issue is going to be somewhere up here or at the starter itself. Now, very simply, we can just check our control wires, make sure that we have our pin 30 that has our constant power, and then we can check our two control wires of the coil to make sure that the coil is actually getting energized the way it's supposed to. And then from there, we can take and validate our output control on pin 8 of connector C2. All right, so I think that's the way that we're going to tackle this diagnosis, and hopefully we find this issue fairly quickly. Starter relay on this one is going to be K3. K3 lives right here. Now, the way that this one works is that I'm going to have one constant power. I'm going to give you guys a view of that. Okay. So I find my constant power. There we go. So one constant power. This one is going to be going towards my starter solenoid. And then these ones right here are going to be my control. Now what ends up happening is that this one right here, this pin, which is pin 80, 85, I believe. I'll put a picture up to correct myself, but I believe that's pin 85. When I turn the key, I'm connected to ground, or it might even be pin 86. But when I turn the key, we're going to see that this does illuminate, which means the starter relay is getting a power. I'm going to give you guys a view of that. Okay, so we see. All right, now if I wait, this is going to go out because it's trying to crank the vehicle and it can't. All right, now we're going to come out to this pin. This pin is not illuminated. This pin will be the ground control. So yeah, that one's going to be 85. So it's going to crank and we come out and we see our ground control. I am connected to battery positive at this point. So we know that the relay can be controlled, but there is one test that I did not like. And that test was, very simply, this pin is supposed to go out to my starter relay. Now I should be able to light my test light through the ground of the starter, which is connected to the engine. Now what's happening is that when I touch this, I got nothing. I am connected to battery positive. If I come down to the engine, which I did not check yet, I am grounded. All right. So I believe that we are having a broken wire. Now I believe that that broken wire is going to be somewhere underneath here. So I'm going to just pull up the tip-em real quick, have a quick look, and we're going to see what is going on underneath. The wiring diagram for this system is very, very simple, not very hard to understand, but the starter is not turning. So let's take this and go from there and try to diagnose this car. All right, so I wish I could have got that on camera for everybody, but right now I have the connector unplugged for the starter solenoid, which is going to be pin 1 at the starter solenoid. Now I am connected onto the back of the wiring of my connector C2, this gray and yellow and gray wire. So if I can get you guys in here. Now, as you can tell, the test light was lit, which means now it's finding a ground through it. Now there's actually a connection issue underneath. Now I'm pretty sure if I plug this back in, the vehicle will start, and I'm just gonna let the client know and he can go from there. Like I said, it might either be a wiring issue, a connection issue. They might have tried to replace the starter, I don't know. But actually, I want to show you guys that wire first. Cool. Let's see if I can get this connector back out. Here we go. Okay. So that wire lives all the way up here in the corner. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it. Right next to my thumb. So we're going to have a brown with light green. Then we have this yellow. Now that's the starter wire. All right. Now let's get this back in. And see if I can get this one on. I'll be right back. Just got the connector in. Let's go see if this vehicle turns over now, which I believe it will because there was no codes for anything else. So there we go. All right, so we do have a connection issue at the starter, and that is what is causing the vehicle not to start. Now, like I said, it might either be the wiring itself that is broken, or it's going to end up being the starter connector on the inside that's broken. So, but in order to test that, they're going to have to take it off, and we're going to have to verify from there. But I think that it's more or less a broken wire, about maybe, I don't know, about the size of the battery from here to here. That's going to be end up broken because I just moved the wiring around and it started up right away. So that's it on this one. No parts required. Well, kind of. They might put a starter into it. I don't know. That's going to be on them. I was just called to diagnose why this vehicle wasn't starting. So total time on this job, maybe about a half an hour. And that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.